What's up guys, Ronaldo here and welcome. We got the green light for Ingrid. We got Ingrid now I can test her and that's what we're gonna do. This is gonna be a first impression of Ingrid. How well is she gonna perform? So I'm gonna go over her kit in this video. Then I will simplify her kit a bit, because if I just read through the abilities it is kind of hard to understand, so I will have a simplified version for you as well. And then I'm gonna go test her. How well does she do in single target and how well does she do in AoE content? And then afterwards I will head back to testing. I will test her in every single piece of content and make a video for her in everywhere literally, and see how good she is everywhere. So first up, let's go over her kit here. So she is a Watcher Lord with a dual faction, first dual faction with arbiters as well, so she's also good for the Praetus players here. Now her kit is basically that she has two forms, right? She has a single target form and an AoE form. So let's go over her kit right now. Her Lord skill is increases faction team members basic attributes, pretty standard. Then periodically increases faction team members damage and healing received by 50% for 20 seconds. The more faction allies there are on your team, the more frequently it takes place. So as more Watchers you have, as stronger this is. So this first part is basically same as Leia, now that Leia got buffed. Now the second part is whenever she deals damage to an enemy, all of her Watcher allies deal 20% bonus damage to that enemy within 3 seconds as well. So that's also already pretty nice. Her ultimate is just that switch button. That's all her ultimate really is. It is, she swaps from AoE mode to single target mode, right? Solar mode to stellar mode. This is AoE to single target. It has 100 cost maxed out. Then her basic attack is in AoE mode, 120% AoE damage to one enemy up to 8 enemies. So that's actually a pretty good scaling for a single AoE hit. But remember, she does not have an ultimate, right? Her ultimate just is a switch button. So there's that. All of her damage has to come from her talent and from her passives. So, and her normal single target attack is 60% damage 2 times to one enemy. So basically she has that solar mode, which is the AoE mode, and the stellar mode, which is her single target mode. So in her AoE mode, after 4 basic attacks, turns the next basic attack into Solar Flare, dealing 320% AoE damage up to 15 enemies in a wide front area. Okay. Then Stellar Mode, the mode infused with the might of the stars, excelling in dealing with a single powerful enemy. Okay, so her single target mode is also after 4 auto attacks she gets an empowered one, and that turns the next auto attack into Star Shower, which will be 50% damage to one enemy 12 times. And now we go through her passive. So her first passive, Empyrean Tempest. Triggering Solar Flare grants 1 solar energy point, and triggering Star Shower grants 1 stellar energy point. So basically every 4 attacks you get 1 energy. Every 4 attacks you get 1 energy. You trigger her talent, right? Her talent, every 4 attacks her AoE hit gets empowered, or every 4 attacks her single target hit gets empowered. Then after she got 5 energy points accumulated, which was about 25 attacks, so after 5 times triggering her talent, after 5 times triggering her AoE talent, it triggers Solar Overlord. So she goes into Overlord mode. So this is kind of her empowered burst window to make up for her ultimate just being a swap button. And that Solar Overload reduces attack interval by 25%, during which the ultimate cannot be used. Solar energy will be cleared when the effect duration ends. So therefore her AoE mode has 25% lower attack interval during her empowered burst window, and 25% increased damage due to that first part that is just in the kit, and afterwards her solar points get removed and then she will be stacking up again. Then in the single target mode she triggers Stellar Overload, which will increase her attack by that's a big one. That was what I was looking for. Increases attack by 30%, during which the ultimate cannot be used. Stellar energy will be cleared after the effect duration ends. And then if you use your ultimate before you reach that 5 stacks of hers, her energies gained from one side of the effect will be cleared, which means you cannot stack 4 stacks of AoE and then swap to single target and stack 4 stacks, 5 stacks there, get your burst window, swap to AoE, you already have 4, you get your 5th and you get your burst window immediately. That's not how it works. So you want to stay in one mode for long, right? You want to pretty much stay in that mode, which makes sense. Now, why did I say that's a big thing, the 30%? Well, single target magic damage dealers suffer a lot from high defenses in certain pieces of content, so having high attack is kind of a must-have for stuff like that, and having that attack increase for Samurai is going to be huge. For GVG it's also going to be huge, and so forth. Then another passive, Solar Flare, deals an extra 50% true damage to all enemies hit. So every time her AoE talent triggers, 150% extra true damage on them. Each damage dealt by Star Shower has a 25% chance of inflicting burning and a 25% chance of inflicting radiant erosion. So whenever she triggers her talent, her single target talent, they will pretty much guaranteed they will get a few stacks of burning and some radiant erosion stacks as well. Now, reading through all of this sounds a bit complicated for everyone, so I want to have a simplified version explanation from my side for people that haven't really looked into this kit beforehand, right? I had a lot of time to think about it. So simplified for everyone, she has 2 modes, single target and AoE. With her ultimate, she swaps between these modes, and in each mode, every few attacks, she triggers her talent that is a bonus damage dealt. Now that bonus damage dealt will give her bonus damage increase and will give her a stack that increases her damage. Once she is on 5 stacks, she will have a overdrive mode where she deals more damage for a certain period of time, and she cannot ultimate. That overdrive mode gives her in single target version more attack, and in her AoE version a lower attack interval. On top of that, her triggering her talent gives her some bonuses. In the AoE she gets some true damage, in the single target mode she gets some radiant erosion and burning. Then she also has increased damage in arena, and she's a mage with 1 heck of an attack. Now, last thing that I want to go over here before we go into the awakenings. As you can see, she has the highest attack in the game from the mages, which is amazing. This is the most important thing to have. Her attack interval is going to be 3 seconds at the beginning, so quite high, and her cost is 25. That's also important to note. Then, since she's a mage, she can make use of the Tear of Twilight, which is big, and because she has a damage increase in her attack increase in her single target thing, that is huge as well. Now, awakenings. Let's see. In stellar mode, deals 20% increased damage to targets inflicted to radiant erosion and receives 20% less damage from targets inflicted with radiant erosion. So in her single target mode, she deals 20% more damage to people that are inflicted with radiant erosion. So amazing for her as a single target damage dealer, but nothing for her AoE mode. Interesting. Increases faction members' attack by 5% and gives her attack boost. That's really good, should not be underestimated. Then A3 is a big one. During the time where she's in her overload modus, where she's empowered, right, after reaching 5 talent stacks, to activate her talent within these 20 seconds where she is empowered, she will only have to hit 3 times, and then she will be afterwards able to trigger her empowered Star Shower or her Solar Flare that deals true damage and extra damage, or the Star Shower that gives radiant erosion, burning, and deals 600% damage. Okay, then penetration A4, and then here A5. Solar Flare ignores 25% of magic resist. So the AoE ignores some magic resist at A5. So basically her A1 only brings her something for single target, A5 only brings her something for AoE. I assume you're only going to go for A3. A3 sounds like one heck of a big one, to reduce the talent trigger from 4 to 3. Now before we go into the testing, let's take a look at her video here. So we're in outer space. Outer space, and look what this looks like, guys. I already talked with War Guides. He was reminded of the exact same thing, and I assume you guys are as well. Kind of looks like Asgard, no? With that bridge and everything in outer space. Kinda looks like it. And there you go. Lovely woman. Let's take a look here. I'm excited. So let's place her down right at the beginning. 25 cost, quite expensive. So this range is tailored for these bosses here, right? There we go. Now, first up, I want to test the auto casting. It doesn't auto cast her ultimate, or does it? That's something I want to see, because that's important to know. She does not auto cast her ultimate, so that's extremely good. That's extremely good, because otherwise you will get accidentally into the wrong stance. Now, the next thing I want to see is, okay, that's a huge laser. Wow. You do not see in which mode she is. You do not see in which mode she is. So there you go. Now that huge laser, that showed me already, okay, that is the AoE mode that we're in right now, right? But assuming that we always start with the AoE mode, that's my assumption here. Now let me see, how many attacks do we need? Is it where her talent triggering after 4 attacks, or is it the 4th attack that triggers her talent? That's something I want to see. And now I didn't count here at the beginning, so we have to just see. Alright, now 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so the 5th attack is when she triggers. The 5th attack is when she triggers. And here these gold thingies, these gold thingies are the stacks that she has to get to overdrive, is what I assume. So you barely see it, unfortunately. That's something that Moonton should change. You should see the overdrive stacks right here, so you know how far she is into overdrive. She has 3 stacks of overdrive now ready. Now her 4th, and afterwards she will get into her overdrive and her ultimate will be locked out, right? So that's the last thing I wanted to check, right? So now she's in her overdrive, and now she has a reduced attack interval, and now she can deal more damage than that. So this is already for her kit. I think we figured everything out. So her ultimate doesn't automatically trigger. You see the overdrive here visually, but you should see it when you click on her icon as well. That's something they need to change. I'll text them. And then she starts off with the AoE mode. That's just my assumption here for the beginning. So let's place her down. She is quite high cost. Let's change her already into her single target form. There we go. She doesn't need anyone in range to be changed. And is that her single target form though? Huh. What? Huh? I'm confused. Unlike the AoE part, the single target part is not going to be blind here because, like I said, I wanted to show her in epilogue, but her AoE range is actually the long range for the epilogue. So I'm going to show her in AMR. Reason being, because in AMR I can show you guys her weaknesses, unlike her strengths, right? And I want to focus on her weaknesses here on the single target over her strength. So let's go right all into AMR so I can talk about what exactly do I mean by her weakness, quote unquote. She does her double hits. This is also how you see she's in single target, right? She does her double hits. And she consistently applies burning and radiant erosion. So she gets 20% bonus damage during radiant erosion, right? In her A1 that you always want to get, right? And she in single target is consistently applying that by herself. So that's already amazing. So you don't even need the likes of an Alistair or Praetus to be able to really make use of that. Now her damage, as you can see, is really good. Her damage is extremely high, even without her ultimate, right? She has, because of her high attack. But her burst damage is not that crazy so far, right? Her burst damage, because and it's not going to be as ready in terms of burst as a Silas is when he pops his ultimate, as a Valderon is when he pops his ultimate, because they pop and they go, you know, they pop, they go, tack, 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 tack. And that's a big thing that you need during boss killing, especially in hard stages, is you want to get rid of that boss quickly, right? You want to get tack, tack going. And she needs to scale up. Her uptime, consistent DPS is really high because of her high attack, as you can see, but she does not have that immediate burst, as you will be able to see here. The single target, her stacks for her passive are 4, I think, now, and they're shining, instead of gold, they're shining purple here. So that's also good to know for you guys. And now when she goes into her overdrive mode, that's when she starts shining. That's when she gets a 30% attack increase here, right? So this should be right now, right? Yeah, now she's at 80k per hit, and you can see these things are flying around. So she's now in her overdrive. She deals now more bonus damage, 90k hit actually. Oh, now she's in the overdrive, okay. And now she hits like a truck, huh? So once she gets there, once she scales up, she hits like a truck, but she needs some time to scale up. And this is more focused on the weakness than of the strength of the single target. Now it's gear rate 121. Let's test her here as a signal DPS, AoE DPS for the first wave. See how well she does here in terms of her damage. So we place her down and an attack buffer, and just like on the other side, she needs to scale up, but she already has high scalings here. So the burst, so let's see now her AoE damage coming in. 40,000, 70,000, 70,000. There's nothing special, and her empowered hit comes in hard, right? So her burst window, we really need to wait here. I feel like we really need to wait here because we need to scale up. Her damage is pretty good. Look at that. Oh my god. What that? She nukes them without the Dolores. Are we power of dominance on? No. No power of dominance on, and she's not in overdrive yet. And the Dolores isn't in here yet as well. Whoa, 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 whoa. Now we're in overdrive, right? We're in overdrive. Pop the Dolores here. Let me see here. We're in overdrive. 150,000. Bam. Okay, now we're off of the overdrive. Okay, interesting. Wow, wow, wow. That damage is super good. Super consistent. Now she doesn't have immediate burst like the other mages. Again, same. So this is going to be the same problem for the AoE, just like the single target. But she has high consistency in terms of her damage. Let's see again, her overdrive is now active with the Dolores. And during the overdrive, she just rinses. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, okay. What do we have here? What do we have here? Wow, wowee. Now she's way stronger than I expected. Now I know I said I just test him in one video and I do the rest during other videos, but I'm just so interested now. Like, she caught my attention so much. I need to test her in single target arena as well. I think AoE arena, she also has a really good place. She could be also really good for AoE arena. I think for AoE arena she's actually a menace, to be honest. She's gonna be super disgusting for AoE arena. So now, and because AoE arena is obvious that she's gonna be a menace, I want to test her now here in single target. So single target, she has really high cost. So you need a lot of time to place her down at the beginning. Might have even been better if I place down someone else for the actual run, right? But I'm gonna change her into single target mode here. So most likely it's better if you place down like a low cost unit first, and then you wait for the second Siren activation to place her in. But that's okay. Let's just see now here in terms of damage. That's 440 BP, 1440k BP, so she has a lot of BP here, and she kind of does everything, right? And we'll use this. Place her in. So the first few waves are easy. Okay, they drop. She is about to go in overdrive. She is scaled up. She is now in overdrive here. The 5 stacks here are in. Let me see. We can pop that ultimate, we forgot about that. And these guys kinda die immediately. But these are not the hard enemies, right? Let's see when the hard enemies come in. Okay, so Lucius in his demon stance, of course, is a menace for these. And now she's scaling up again. That Watcher team looks actually disgusting. The Watcher team looks completely disgusting, no? Maybe it's Dardea who's helping out too much. Am I tripping, or are they just... Is the drill master too easy, or... Because it doesn't look that hard yet. Alright. Now last wave, and now she's ready in her last stance again. Let's see the last wave. She's gonna lose against the Valdron from the looks of it. And Praetus might be better as well, but that looks really consistent. She takes quite a long here for that one. Alright. Okay, wow. Well, alright, so as my first impression, what I can tell you guys is, first up, I'm a bit confused about the range change there from AoE to single target. The range is kind of limiting her as well in the AoE department, but in the AoE part, like in Gear 1, she just showed off phenomenally because her damage overall is just really good there. So her consistent damage seems to be quite high, right? Her overall damage, consistent damage seems to be quite high. But the big thing is really the burst window. That's what you are talking about, right? Because we are in a currently, there's two things that are really important. We're in a rage region meta that enables us to have extremely high uptime on our burst windows on the meta heroes, right? Like the heroes that have high burst windows, like Silas, has extremely high uptime on his burst through his ultimate, right? His ultimate is a high burst window. He has really high uptime thanks to rage region. Same for Praetus, has extremely high damage when he is in his ultimate, and his ultimate has a really high uptime because of low cost and his A1 enabling to self rage region as well. So they have really high uptimes on their burst windows. And on top of that, another important thing that is part of the meta is to try to one-shot heroes as they come out, right? As they come up, you need to one-shot them before they kill you in some of the harder stages of the game. So for example, that's something that Silas does really well because you just click ult and he starts going, right? Or same for a single target hero, you just pop him in a Valdron and he starts going. Whereas she needs extremely long to build up her burst. Now sure, her overall consistent damage is good, but to get to that overload damage, this is where you wanna, this is kind of what should make up for her not having an ultimate. It's just really, really long. It takes a lot of time, right? We have a 3-second standard attack interval. Now with some gear you get to 1.6 seconds. Now I took a lot of attack speed in here, as you can see, or 2 seconds. So actually let's just do it simplified. 2 seconds, right? We need 25 hits to get into that overload. 2 seconds, that's 50 seconds to get into a 20-second burst window. That's abysmal uptime on that burst window, and her consistent damage needs to really make up for that. It needs to make up a lot. So in terms of AoE, I can tell you she's gonna be really strong, but limited to her range. In terms of single target, I'm not sure. I need to do some more testing. What I can tell you, her consistent damage is good, but her uptime on her burst window, or on her passive burst window, is really low, really low. Also, I think in GVG she's gonna be a menace for the AoE. And thinking about it, you might actually want to use her as a, not as a lord, but as a unit in GVG for Praetus, and you're gonna have unbeatable defenses with Praetus as your single target and her as your AoE hitter. But as a lord, I'm not too sure. As her as a single target, I need to test her more about that. With that said, that's my first impression. I can't really tell you more right off the bat about that, but yeah, let me know what you guys think of these numbers that you just saw. Consistent damage is high, uptime of her burst window is not that high.